Oh, right.
You'll be fine.
And do you do the same thing where you take off a question?
Yes,
So hopefully we'll go down to like 50.
but don't bomb it on purpose.
I don't have to try to do it on
Writing
purpose.
notes to today. Riley Jermaine. Wave hi, Riley.
I don't like this.
Oh well.
Riley, why do you have to hate everything?
I didn't say I hated it, I just said I didn't like it. That's good. There's like 5 people in here.
You just said I hate doing this.
Did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she
That's what
said
I
I hate doing this.
Oh, then after we write you kind notes, you can ignore all.
Okay.
How about we write you mean
Right,
notes?
I
Will
don't
that
think
make you feel better?
I already get me notes from you.
We're all writing Riley a note of kindness. You've been eligible for notes of kindness, but you're always not here when I announce it. It'll get to you soon.
Okay.
You do it on purpose.
Riley, you know.
Riley Germain is our recipient.
My mom got the job at the place at the hospital. What?
You sound like Harry Potter trying to tell
Looks like Minnesota.
Snape
No, it
that
Oh yeah, it does.
he's got it in the
I
place
haven't
where it's
seen-
in.
I haven't seen
okay,
it.
never mind.
Wait here.
Wait, I kind of does too.
Does it look like Minnesota?
Yeah.
But a lot of them are.
I think
the same
it's-
'cause you read
yeah,
them all at
because
once.
You're gonna hate them all,
Oh,
Riley.
yeah.
They look like-
That's true.
Yeah.
No, they called me. Did I tell you? Did I tell you today?
Thank you. Thank you.
No, she got a call
say
today,
thank
and
you
they
to
said that you
everyone
got
that
the job.
Yeah, been long.
She got a different job offer before too, but like
What's
this is
this
like a
job?
good. Like she gets like $4 more than her last one, and she gets better benefits. No, there's a job offer in Osceola, and now there's one in a place across from Osceola, across the river.
So just in a different one you never told me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
This must be some of the notes. You write notes too?
Have you not seen the favorite
gosh.
file request?
No, I saw one yesterday. This is good. How did you do it like this?
Would you like me to teach you how to build these?
Yeah.
Ultimate paper?
Not right now. Okay. Maybe
Why
later.
not? But now is the perfect time.
Because I would want.
Watch everyone.
Okay.
Step one. All I did was take the corner,
Oh my
fold it
God.
down.
This is gonna take so long.
Then I take this corner and put it down there. Then fold it in half. Then I take and fold in half twice. One. See? One. And then I do it again.
Is
Two.
that what makes it good?
What makes it good is the most important ingredient, love.
Oh my god.
It's literally just paper.
That's what SpongeBob says.
There's a video on Facebook of like the
Oh,
good
that
moments of
hits on the eye.
SpongeBob. It's just like a bunch of funny SpongeBob times.
That
Put
must be
together.
hilarious.
I watch it every night before
Oh,
I go to bed.
that's cool.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, this has been going live. Oh,
That's good.
oh boy. Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
All right. The plan is to start fighting the Civil War today in class.
Oh.
We will then finish the documents for Reconstruction and it's possible that you are as confused as some other students from the earlier class today, so let me clarify. Right now, we are in the process of working on a paper and a blue book essay. The paper is on two historians, Genovese and Stamp. That's something you type up. That's something you use with direct quotes. That's due next, what did I say, Friday? Yep. And there is a blue book essay on the success of Reconstruction. That's a blue book essay. Okay, you understand? I'm gonna go with the yeah.
Wait, what?
Take that back.
Well, I was reading those. Friend, this isn't.
Do you know what our paper topic is?
Yeah.
What is it?
For the paper?
Uh-huh.
The slaves and why they.
Very
were
good. What's our blue book essay topic?
Reconstruction.
Very good. Okay. All right. So we need to look at this map. Look what I did. This map shows you the second stage of secession. I told you yesterday that 11 states seceded. Basically, I kind of drew a line. Seceded, and why did they secede? Remember?
This is OU.
Because of Lincoln's election. That is why, because Lincoln's elected.
What? Everyone else reads theirs and you don't give them looks.
Yes, I
What
do.
am I doing wrong?
You were born. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that was a little extreme.
Okay. So they secede. Now the question I have for you to think about this is let's travel to Texas. Texas secedes. Actually, this is a good map because this shows you the dark green are the states that seceded when Lincoln was elected. The light green seceded after something else. Okay. So dark green states. Let's travel to Texas and identify that all those dark green states had military forts in them. United States military forts. So when the state secedes, who owns the military fort? Right? Does the fort secede with the state? Or is the fort the property of the United States and as a result does not secede? Another way of saying this is when the state secedes and you are a military fort within that state, do you lower the American flag? Do you exit the fort? Do you surrender it to the state of Texas? And the answer to that was a resounding yes. They abandoned all federal forts. All forts in the dark green area were abandoned except one. That one. Fort Sumter, which I think I have a picture. This is Fort Sumter today. They rebuilt it, obviously. The soldiers at Fort Sumter, which is in South Carolina, which was the first state to secede, were ordered to remain. Do not lower the American flag. Do not surrender. Stay there. Don't attack, but do not surrender the fort. All the others surrendered. Were allowed to leave, but they were ordered to stay. And this continues a pattern, an interesting pattern that has been true of American wars with almost no exception. What the U.S. does, which slightly precedes a war, is has soldiers that are exposed get attacked. You look at every war we've ever been in except one that I can think of. Americans are always in that risky spot and then are attacked. Right? Name a war. Name a war and see if we can come up with an example, the example for that war. Or maybe you know it. War of 1812. Did you get me there?
Good.
Nope. The British sank American boats that were trying to trade with French. Yes.
World War I, we weren't physically attacked, really,
When you say we,
in the U.S.
the attack of Americans on board the Lusitania was seen as aggressive German behavior. All right. So again, Americans put into a position of risk. Now the Lusitania, if you want to know, was sunk right about there, right? It was a British boat, but there were Americans on board. So there you go. Anybody else? Name more.
Korean War.
Not an American war. However, the North Koreans attacked the South Koreans. I mean, World War II, Pearl Harbor. Revolutionary War, the British marching on Lexington. Vietnam War, we'll get to the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Every war we've ever been in, the Mexican-American War, American soldiers attacked by the Mexicans. Of course, they were across the Nueces River, but okay, whatever. But okay, very good. You've just identified the one where it wasn't true. So the American invasion of Iraq was without provocation. Iraq had not attacked Americans. We'll get there. If you're wondering, like, well, then why did we attack them? Basically, the justification is the risk was so great that the president at the time, George Bush, said we can't wait to get attacked because the nature of the attack would be a weapon of mass destruction, a WMD. We can't take that risk. So we need to preemptively strike them, right? You punch them before they punch you. Because if they punch you, it's going to be bad. So don't even let them have the chance. Now that was controversial because some people said Iraq wasn't going to do that in the first place. They never had weapons of mass destruction. You made it all up. Okay. Anyway, that's a topic. Any questions here? Okay. So soldiers were ordered to stay. Now you're the South. What are you going to do? You have one of two bad options. Either you don't attack, in which case you are allowing foreign soldiers to occupy a military base in your country, or you do attack, in which case you're the aggressor. It looks bad. One of the justifications of war is self-defense. If the South attacks, now the North can go to other countries and say, don't help the South. They're the aggressor, right? You might not like us, the United States, Britain, specifically Britain here. Hey, Britain, you might not like the US so much, but the South's the aggressor here. Okay. Does anyone know what happened? You know. Did the South attack or not? Yeah, they sure did. They leveled the fort. This is a recreation of Fort Sumter. They leveled the fort. Now, no one died, which either means the South were really bad shots or they were really good shots. I don't know the answer. Were they glad that that happened? I don't know. But at some point, the commanding officer of Fort Sumter raised the white flag, withdrew, and gone. The net effect, though, was it's out. Let's go. Right? Both North and South started raising armies. It's going to happen. It's now a reality. An attack has happened. It's actually going to be a thing. Okay. 2 bullets that are visible to you, but wait, let's talk about these 3 things first, and then we'll talk about some other things here. But aggressor question mark? It looks like the South's the aggressor. At least that's what the North said. Very much like the Mexican-American War. We crossed the Nueces. Then the Mexicans attacked us. And the U.S. says to Mexico, you're the aggressor. We like to do that. Americans, throughout our history, we like to justify, I'm not criticizing this, we like to justify why we're fighting. One of the arguments, one of the justifications of any conflict is self-defense. You attacked us, and now we shall thrash you. And we're justified in doing so. We're good at fighting wars when we feel justified in why we're fighting. Question?
So is this kind of like the start of the Civil War?
Definitely. You are looking at the first military conflict of the Civil War. Please note, I said military conflict. I did not say battle. This isn't a battle. Right? Battle is both sides attack, right? This was a conflict, definitely, but I wouldn't call it that. The result was both sides now armed. Both sides now armed to the teeth. Originally, the original reason why the North goes to war was to preserve the Union. The question the North is trying to present is this: you cannot secede. You can't do that. You cannot reduce the number of stars on the flag. You cannot secede. And the South's version goes like this: yeah, you can. Yes, we can secede. We just did. This will be an interesting argument later on. Of course, the North wins the Civil War, but later on, during the time period called Reconstruction, the question will come up, did the South actually ever secede? If they never seceded, then they're still states. And if they're still states, then certain legal implications come up. But if they did secede, then those are foreign entities who have to resubmit for statehood. They have to rewrite their constitution. They have to go through all those hoops again to re-become a state. We'll see what happens.
Which side thought what?
The North is saying you cannot secede,
Okay.
and the South saying, yeah, you can.
Got it.
Who did you say the aggressor?
Well, both said the other ones.
Okay.
Right? The North said the South was the aggressor. Of course, the South said the North was the aggressor. You occupied a military fort in South Carolina. You're the aggressor. I'm now pointing to, this map is wrong for some reason. This is the better map. I don't know why Kentucky, I chose poorly. There were slave states that stayed with the Union. Slave states that stayed with the Union. If the Civil War originally was about slavery, whether or not slavery should be legal, then the Civil War would have been slave states against free states. But that's not what happened. There were slave states that stayed with the Union. Missouri, Kentucky, part of Virginia. When Virginia seceded, 12 counties in Western Virginia seceded from Virginia. They argued that secession wasn't legal. So what they actually said was they never seceded in the first place. You follow me? Virginia left, and then they left. But what they actually said was they never left when Virginia left. They just stayed with the Union. The secession isn't legal. Okay, so slave states that stayed with the Union: Missouri, Kentucky, Western Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. The 5 slave states that stayed with the Union, forming the shape of the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know. I drew that. What do you think?
Yeah.
Pretty good. That took me minutes. Later, this would become a war to end slavery. But not originally. Originally, the question being answered was, can you secede? Can a state secede? Can you quit the country? And the North's attempt was, no, you can't. You're stuck. That's what democracy is. Democracy is you go with the will of the majority. If you lose, too bad. Lincoln won the election. Your guy lost the election. Lincoln's your president, loser. What I mean by loser is loser of the election. Sorry, your guy didn't win, but the winner's still your president. And the South's version goes like this. No, he isn't. We didn't pick him. We picked someone else. We want that guy to be our leader. That's our version of democracy. Okay. Later, the war would become about slavery directly. Anyone know what changed? What was it that said, yep, this war is about slavery? Yes.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Very good. The Emancipation Proclamation. Excellent. Okay. Anyone want to guess what the yellow line is? I have a yellow line and then I have a yellow square. I really don't know why I have a yellow square there. The naval blockade. Very good. Which apparently cut right through Florida. And that's wrong. I was just lazy.
Florida has a big like canal in it.
Yeah, maybe, but no. Okay, yeah, no. I was just lazy. Very good. The Union Navy took a page out of the British Naval How You Fight War book. That's quite a name. and set up a blockade. So part of the Union goal was to cut the South off from any trade with foreign nations. Guess what the Southern goal was? Come on now.
Same thing.
Well, no, not the same thing. The opposite thing, right? Haven't we done this before? Come here. You with the face, come here. Hold your hand open like this, put the pencil in it. Okay. Now my goal is to grab the pencil before she closes her hand, preventing me from grabbing the pencil. You can't move until I move though. Okay. What's your goal? I'll give you another chance.
You're pretty quick.
You're cheating. Move that thumb back. What's your goal again? Give you one more chance. What's your goal again? What was her goal again? Prevent me from grabbing the pencil, right? If the Union goal is to blockade, the Southern goal is to
Get out.
right, break through the blockade. They need to trade. The South needed to trade with foreign nations for reasons that we're going to explore. The green represents the slave states that stayed with the Union, but it also represents the area Lincoln was very concerned about. Lincoln believed, probably correctly, that these states would soon secede. And so he militarily occupied them and established something called martial law. I don't know what that is. You might think that's the state of Missouri, but under martial law, that becomes the area under the control of some military general. The general is the top dog. Under regular civilian rule, you have rights as a civilian. You have the right to a trial by a jury and presumed innocent and all that stuff. Under military rule, when the army's in control, we're not worried about your rights. We're simply worried about security and where the enemy is. And so we can round you up and throw you into some sort of a prison situation. And does that violate your rights? Uh-huh. Too bad. We're not worried about it. There is no presumption of innocence. Do you think when the Allies landed at Normandy that as they captured Germans, they held a quick trial for every German? No, they just rounded them up, put them in prisons or killed them. And then after the conflict was over, then they started putting back into place things like rights and stuff, but not during the conflict. That's what happened in the light green area here. Martial law, military's running the show. Okay, no civilian courts, no mayors, no governors. The military's running the show. What were those states? Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. The 5 slave states that stayed with the Union, and Lincoln made sure they wouldn't change their mind. I'm glad you're here. I'm now going to lock the door. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You walk into the school and the principal says, I have an announcement. Choose any room you want to go to. Go there now. And you guys choose this room. And I say to you, I'm glad you're here. Click. And I stand at the door. Did you freely choose to come into this room?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I'm not letting you change your mind. That's what's going on here. Okay? Questions?
So he's forcing them to be part of the North.
Yes. You got it.
Is that what made them want to get out even more?
Probably some people, they never did secede, but I'm sure some people didn't really like it. Yeah. Just off the map is Indian land. It's still there. Indian land, where all the Indians live. Today we call it Oklahoma. Most of the Indians sided with the Confederacy. Do you know why?
They hated the United States more than they hated the
Very good.
Confederacy.
The enemy of my enemy. The enemy of my enemy. Right? It's not that they liked the South. They didn't really know the South, but they knew the history of the United States as far as Native Americans are concerned. Not a great track record. They took a chance that the South would win and that maybe the South would have a better policy toward the Native Americans than the North. Big swing and a miss there, right? That didn't go well, but they took a chance. Okay, let's keep going here. I'm showing you this incredibly weird map to identify the international impact of the American Civil War. That's what this map really is showing you, the international impact of the American Civil War. So here's the Confederacy, they secede, North invades, Civil War. Did you know that European governments sent generals to watch and observe and learn things about military strategy? And what they did was they would, just like any football coach that watches and says, oh, that's what we should do, right? Any of you football fans, did you know that this is apparently what happened, that Seattle watched how the Patriots defended the Viking receivers and did the exact same thing. It shut down Thielen and shut down Diggs, right? It's a copycat league. Same thing. Wars are copycat wars. You learn how to fight. One of the things that was invented in the American Civil War was a method of fighting known as trench warfare. Trench warfare. Trenches make horses insignificant, right? Horses are darn tough to beat in open field battle. Dig a trench. How effective is that horse now, right? Are you going to put the horse in the trench? What point is that, right? And then you make the trench wide enough that the horse can't just jump over, right? So think about that. So the Europeans saw trench warfare in the Civil War. They then took that and applied it to the next major European war, which was World War I, trench warfare. Now, by the time that the World War I was rolling along, what the Germans had to do was figure out, okay, how do we beat trench warfare? Aha! Mustard gas, which is heavy, right? It goes to the lowest point. Trenches are low. So you just throw the mustard gas, it lands in the French trench, and the French say, le crap, let's get out of here. And so let's get up into no man's land. And then the Germans came along with the other invention, machine guns. Gas plus machine guns equals dead French. Okay. They also invented tanks, right? So this is just sort of military history 101. You look at what the enemy's using, and then you come up with a way to overcome it, right? Oog and Boog, punch. Then Oog say, how I overcome Boog's punch. Rock. So throw rock. Boog get hit by rock. Now Boog must come up with way to defend against rock. Shield. So now throw rock, shield, haha. Now you must overcome way to overcome shield. I don't know, spear, puncture through. Okay, you get it. All right. So we are now looking at how the Europeans viewed the American Civil War. The governments wanted fill in the blank to win. Can you guess? The European governments wanted, I will not answer. See if you can guess. Think it through. Very good. It's the South. How'd you know that? Very good, right? It's not because they love the Confederacy. It's the enemy of my enemy. The enemy of my enemy, right? Especially the British. But the people of Europe, why would they want the North to win? And I want you to think about this. You're on the right track. Yep. Think it through. Think even more personally than that.
Did they not like the British?
They not like the British. That's an interesting theory. So they oppose what the British are opposing. Might be something to that. If you're an immigrant, where are you likely to move? North or south? Yeah, the north. Nobody moved to the south. Come on now. So some people moved to Europe, from Europe to the north. Job opportunities, okay.
No slavery.
Factory, yeah, that's kind of what she said. Maybe family. I mean, people you personally knew that moved to the United States probably moved to the north. And now they're fighting for the Union Army. The reason you want the North to win is that's my cousin. Or whatever, right? So there was a divide between who countries wanted and who the people of the countries wanted. It had economic arguments, which you said, but also family. Huge Irish population fighting for the North. Okay. The British wanted the South to win until something called EP, Emancipation Proclamation. When the North issued the Emancipation Proclamation, when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, the British said, we're done helping the South. Because do you see? Now the North isn't just fighting a war to preserve their country. Now the North is fighting a noble cause. We're fighting to end slavery. The British stopped helping the South. Yep. After the Emancipation Proclamation. It's no longer just a little civil war. It's a noble cause. They're fighting for something great. Ending slavery. Wow. So the British are up. But the South had something. I'm going to eliminate this. The South had something that they thought the British wanted. And so they thought, well, the British will never stop helping us because we have something they want. Very good. Cotton. You know, during the Civil War, well, slightly before the Civil War, the South produced something like 90% of the world's cotton. 90%. This is one of those awesome moments where a domino falls here and it ends up a domino falling over there, because when the British stopped helping the South said, okay, fine, we're not going to sell you any more cotton. The British said, fine, we'll just develop cotton somewhere else. Hey, why don't we develop it in India? Which they did. The British developed the cotton industry in India, which caused the Indians, and when I say Indians, I mean these Indians, the people of India, Indians, to argue that the British were putting them into slave labor. Along comes a guy named Gandhi, who resists British imperialism. The American Revolution was a military conflict against the British. Gandhi achieved independence very differently. Right? You're not going to take on the British militarily. He chooses a different path. But it's just kind of cool to see the British decision to switch to focusing on Indian cotton, which leads to Indian resistance of the British and Gandhi, and then that leads to Martin Luther King. It's just kind of fun.
So fun.
That sounded sarcastic. I'll let that go. All right. Any questions here? Go ahead.
So what was the effect for British for the Proclamation?
That the British stopped helping the South.
Or like what did it do to the British?
The Emancipation Proclamation caused the British to stop helping the South. So the effect on the British was that they stopped helping the South.
And then the South didn't give them cotton, so then they didn't have any cotton, so then they had to go to India to get cotton.
I'll look it up on Google.
What are you asking?
I'm asking like what it is and like what it did to the British that made it so.
What is it, the Emancipation Proclamation?
Yeah.
Oh, stay tuned.
Okay.
You don't know what the Emancipation Proclamation was?
No.
I'm just wondering. It's fine. You'll learn. See what I've done there? I've learned half the thing. Okay.
I'll see on Google.
This is the last slide. This is Jefferson Davis. So Lincoln's the president of the United States. Jefferson Davis is the president of the Confederate States of America. Lincoln is the president of the USA. Jefferson Davis is the president of the CSA. And I've hinted at this yesterday, but poor Jefferson Davis. The guy had an inherent flaw. Not him personally, but the office. The office had a flaw. President of the Confederate States of America was inherently flawed. Do you know why? Why?
It's a confederacy. It's all about states sort of being themselves, but being together.
Very good.
They don't have like a boss.
Very good. That's exactly right. You're the boss of a nation who believes inherently in secession. Georgia, during the Civil War, almost seceded
From the secession.
from the states that seceded. And what can the Confederate States of America say to Georgia? Hey, you can't, dang it. Please? Come on, don't. Right? What can they say? The difference between federalism and confederalism. Federalism is the United States system. There's a balance between state and federal government. And one of the things states cede to the federal government, one of the things states say, yep, federal government, you take care of this, is military. You do it. So Lincoln was unquestioningly the commander-in-chief. No one questioned it. Well, I shouldn't say no one questioned it, but he's definitely the commander-in-chief. This guy is the leader of a confederation. No one had to listen to him, theoretically. So inherent disadvantage. Okay, that's enough for today. Any questions? Let's finish the documents so I can give you something before the bell rings. Come on. Allow me to say something I said to the earlier class today. Don't give up. Come on. I know this class isn't easy. I know it. And I know that, God, there are nights where I'm sure you're saying to yourself, why did I sign up for this class? I could be taking American history and I wouldn't have to be working so freaking hard on this class. And stay with it. Stay with it. You can do it. And I honestly believe what I'm about to say. You will appreciate it later. You will. When you're in college and every one of those other freshmen are taking that freshman history course and you don't have to because you did already. You're done with the history part. You're done. Call me up. Thank me. I'll say you're welcome. Okay. All right. We are on document number 11.
Yeah.
Yep. We're going to get to 11, 12, 13. Let's rock. Document 11. What's the point? Why did Reconstruction succeed? What?
Constitution. I said Confederation.
What? 15th Amendment guaranteeing the right to vote. 15th Amendment guaranteeing the right to vote. Okay. Let's see here. So I might
Succeed.
I mean, would anyone in here say, well, that's bad? Granting former slaves the right to vote? Poo-poo. No, I mean, it's good, right? So let me draw a bill. Bill. Bill's a black person. And this line represents right to vote. No. This represents right to vote. RTV, right to vote. Okay? It is the 15th Amendment that says you cannot deny the right to vote based on race. You cannot deny the right to vote based on race. So this line represents race. You cannot, hey South, you can't say, you can't vote because you're black. You can't do that. The 15th Amendment says, nope, that avenue is open. Race is not a barrier to vote anymore. 15th Amendment. Nobody in here would argue that that's bad, yes? But what you could argue, if you decide to argue that Reconstruction failed, what you could argue was the ingenious way that the South came up with a way to deny the right to vote. Not this way. You can't. You cannot deny the right to vote, but that way. The South came up with a 3-part plan to deny the right to vote. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Making new laws that
What? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Didn't you say that they made like the crime thing? If they're a criminal, then they could take out their.
You're on the right track. Yeah, very good. It's the same idea, right? You cannot enslave them. You cannot enslave them based on race, but you can enslave them based on criminality. Same thing here. You can't deny the right to vote based on race, but you can deny them the right to vote because they can't afford the tax. Right? What slaves had oodles and oodles of money? So see, I'm not denying you the right to vote because you're black. I'm denying you the right to vote because you can't afford it. Or a literacy test. Okay? I'm not denying you the right to vote because you're black. I'm denying you the right to vote because you can't read. Now again, what slaves knew how to read? What former slaves knew how to read? It was illegal to teach your slaves how to read. So suddenly when slavery's over, do you think that people picked up books and said, I can read now, I was free? No, right?
So that's the other side of the argument. You'd say.
Yeah, this would be a refutation of that argument. But the problem with this, though, so far is, what about poor, illiterate whites? Aren't they also denied? So somehow, we have to allow people who can't afford it and can't read, but who are white, to vote anyway.
Property owners.
It was called the grandfather clause. Look at that writing.
Looks like my grandfather's. What's in his mouth?
What's Santa?
Clause. Grandfather clause.
What's in his mouth?
Nothing. Didn't you see SNL last Saturday?
No.
Oh, it's an awesome skit. So Santa walks into the room and says, I've got bad news. Christmas is canceled. And then Rudolph's nose starts to shine, you know? And Santa says, wait a minute, Rudolph, that nose, that wonderful nose, Christmas isn't canceled. And he runs off. And so Rudolph's there with all the other reindeer, and Rudolph starts saying, well, looking suddenly important. And Donner says, we're sorry, Rudolph. And Rudolph says, what'd you say, Donner? And then they start to fight. And then Santa walks back in, and Rudolph says, Donner's being mean to me. And Santa says, I was afraid this day would come. Gets a shotgun out, kills Donner, and shoots him. And that's the moment where I was like, God, this got dark. But, oh my God, it was funny. But not because they're black, but because they're poor and illiterate. But then the grandfather clause, which said if you had an ancestor that could vote in 1860, you could vote, which allowed all whites to vote. Because what black had an ancestor that could vote in 1860? Nobody. They were all slaves. Clever.
Wow.
I've just armed you with the ability to overcome the argument of the fact that the 15th Amendment was ratified. You could overcome that argument if you want to argue that Reconstruction failed. In that paragraph, you could say some people mistakenly believe that Reconstruction succeeded because the 15th Amendment would guarantee the right to vote. But then your historical evidence could say, however, this is wrong because. Okay. Arguing that it succeeded would go something like this, though. You could say, like, you have to start somewhere, right? You don't instantly create equality. You gotta legalize the right to vote. Now, did it take a while? But you gotta start somewhere. You got think about this. You have a flower, right? You buy a seed, you put it in the ground, and you soil it, and you pour water in it. The next day, you look like, where's the flower? And you throw it away, right? Well, this is a failure. Why don't you wait a little while, huh? Maybe a month. Just wait. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, any questions on the 15th Amendment being a success? Let's keep going. How about the next one? So this would be document 12. What's the argument? Why did it succeed?
Welfare.
Very good. Direct help. Right, so I know maybe you didn't have this, but this is Mr. Abdullah here. He writes for Encyclopedia Britannica, and here's the quote. Headed by Major General Oliver D. Howard, the Freedmen's Bureau might be termed the first federal welfare agency. Despite handicaps of inadequate funds and poorly trained personnel, the Bureau built hospitals for and gave medical assistance to more than 1 million freedmen. 21,000 rations were distributed to impoverished blacks as well as whites. Why did Reconstruction succeed? The building of infrastructure which helped people devastated by the war, right? Hospitals, food. That's a good thing. Okay. So far, the yes, it was a success side has ending slavery, 13th Amendment. The establishment that blacks were citizens, which gives them access to all the other amendments. That's the 14th Amendment. Right to vote, 15th Amendment. The creation of hospitals and welfare, helping these people out. Okay. One document left. That's document 13. Anyone have this one? Read it. Read the little square.
Who's reading it?
Just read it yourself.
Oh, I thought someone was.
3 little lines, right? I think it's pretty simple. You're not where everybody else is. Very, very bad. Get it? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's schools, exactly. The building of schools. Think about it. When they were slaves, it was illegal to teach them how to read and write. Now they're slaves, and you think they're just going to suddenly get a job? They're just going to suddenly write up their resume? They got to be helped. They got to be taught. And so the building of schools. Now, let's just quickly address something. Can you think of a way to overcome that little hurdle if you are going to argue against the success of Reconstruction? I say to you, wait a minute now. Reconstruction succeeded. After all, they built all those schools.
Who's going to teach?
Very good. Segregation. Okay, and I will show you something here in a second. Okay? But again, I go back to, it's got to start somewhere. To argue that Reconstruction failed because black schools were worse than white schools is to ignore the fact that during slavery, there were no black schools. So was it as good as the white schools? No, but it was better than what was before. Could be an argument that you can use. Okay. I'm almost done. I apologize for dominating the entire period. I did not intend that. Tomorrow, by the way, is almost all work day. Almost the whole hour is you working. Okay.
So what's on?
I'm giving you something. Don't mark it up.
I will.
Much easier right now. Normally, you would be responsible for finding your own historical evidence to support or refute Reconstruction's success. You now have in your hands a bunch of historical evidence.
For our
The
essay?
the most useful part are the first 4 pages. The first 4 pages make up a timeline, a series of quick little entries. Here's the year, here's the event, here's what happened, here was the impact. Right? There they are, just listed for you. Actions, the importance of the act. This is historical evidence. That's what it is. It's historical evidence, including, by the way, because it's in order, it's in chronological order, some synthesis. I mean, if you go far enough along here, you're in 1938, 1941, 1954, 1961. That's synthesis. There it is. It's all there for you. Okay. Let's keep going. Turn to page 49. You'll see it at the bottom, 49. It's two photographs. Looks like that. Look at that.
It's the 2 schools.
2 schools, right? They're both in Mason County, Georgia, 1936. The one at the top is the white school. The one at the bottom is the black school.
They go to school in academy.
Equal? That's equal? Clearly separate. Those are equal? The one at the top looks like it could be a school today. The one at the bottom? Where's the syrup? You know what I mean? Like, it looks like a log cabin. It was a log cabin, by the way. How can that be equal? Okay. Anything else that I want to bring your attention to right now? I think I've given you enough for now, right? So, but let's make sure you understand something. You do not have access to this during the Blue Book essay. This is historical evidence that you need to put on your cheat sheet.
Then why can't we write
Good point. Yeah, you're right. You can write it. You just don't get to use it during the Blue Book essay. So you're right. Okay. You will have the documents themselves unmarked and this all marked up. I don't care if you have your whole essay written out on it. Fine. Okay, whatever. But this is the only thing that's marked up.
This is gonna be how many paragraphs does it say?
6. Right? You'll have 2 arguments.
Okay.
Yeah.
For both sides, supporting one side, refuting the other.
Got it.
I've given you way more than 2 arguments. I mean, today alone, ending slavery, establishing that blacks were citizens, granting them the right to vote, education, medical care, there's 5 reasons right there. The failure of it would be, well, frankly, you could just take every one of those arguments and just turn them around. It didn't really end slavery. The South just made them into criminals. Blacks weren't really granted citizenship rights because Southern states were able to pass laws anyway that clearly violated the Constitution, but they did it anyway. And there was no federal government presence to prevent it from happening. Formation of the KKK, the right to vote was denied because of little gimmicks that the South used. Separate but equal, really wasn't equal. Clearly separate but not equal. I mean, you've got plenty. Your problem isn't going to be trying to find. It's going to be narrowing down. Right? Question?
Yeah, no.
There's a rumor that of the 2 people that signed up for Saturday, you were one of them.
The 2 people who signed up were me and Hunter.
It was
It was-
until they canceled.
They did cancel?
Yep.
Oh, that's too bad.
Thanks, Katie.
You know what? The